Welcome, friend. Today, you are not just hearing a story. You are stepping into the life of a man who began with nothing and rose to become one of history's most powerful minds. This is the true account of a poor boy who lacked a college degree, money, fame, and special assistance. Yet he transformed the world through his curiosity, discipline, courage, and an unyielding mindset. His name was Benjamin Franklin. This is not merely a history lesson. It is a profound life lesson. By the story's end, you will learn to believe in yourself when no one else does, to train your mind like a genius, to build something meaningful from scratch, and to convert pain into power. And yes, you will also sharpen your English by listening to one of the greatest true stories ever told. Prepare yourself, for this is not just a story, it is your transformation. Let us begin. Part 1. The beginning of a legend. On January 17, 1706, Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston, Massachusetts. This was a time when America was not yet a country, but merely a collection of British colonies. He was the 15th of 17 children in his family. Yes, 17. His father, Josiah Franklin, made soap and candles. His mother, Abiah Folger, was Josiah's second wife. The family was poor, living in a small, crowded house without electricity, modern schools, or comforts. Every child had to contribute. Benjamin grew up amidst noise, work, and hardship. He had no toys, no luxuries, only books, chores, and an insatiable curiosity. Benjamin's father hoped he would become a priest and sent him to school. However, after only 2 years, the family could no longer afford the tuition. Benjamin was taken out of school at age 10. Most people would have surrendered, but not Ben. Even without formal schooling, he began teaching himself. He devoured anything he could find: old books, newspapers, pamphlets. He particularly loved science, philosophy, self-improvement, and understanding how the world operated. He would borrow books and read them late into the night by candlelight. Though not rich in money, he was immensely rich in his hunger to learn. At age 10, Benjamin started working in his father's candle shop. He detested it. He had no desire to spend his life melting wax and dipping wicks. He yearned for something more. His father observed Ben's unhappiness and permitted him to try various trades. Eventually, at age 12, Benjamin became an apprentice to his older brother, James, who owned a printing shop. This marked a significant turning point. In that small, dusty printing shop, Benjamin discovered his love for writing and words. He began reading and learning at an astonishing pace. He mastered the printing press, learned to write articles, edit content, and express ideas powerfully. James launched a newspaper called the New England Courant, one of the first independent newspapers in the colonies. Benjamin wished to write for it, but James dismissed him as just a kid. So Benjamin devised a brilliant plan. He created a fictitious identity, Silence Dogood, pretending to be a clever middle-aged woman. He secretly penned 14 letters and slipped them under the print shop door. They were published in the newspaper, and readers adored them. Everyone wondered, who is this Silence Dogood? When James discovered it was Benjamin, he was enraged. He felt jealous, angry, and humiliated, and their relationship fractured. Finally, At age 17, Benjamin fled Boston to escape his brother's control. He had no money, no job, no connections. He left everything behind and walked over 300 kilometers to Philadelphia, sleeping on boats, begging for food, and surviving by any means possible. He arrived in Philadelphia tired, dirty, and alone, with only a few coins in his pocket. Yet he carried a mind brimming with ideas, a hunger for knowledge, and a heart full of courage. No one knew it then, but that boy who entered Philadelphia would become one of the greatest men in world history. As he entered the city, exhausted and disoriented, he stopped at a bakery. With his 3 pennies, he bought 3 large rolls of bread. Though he couldn't eat them all, he walked down the street with 1 roll in each hand and 1 tucked under his arm, presenting a comical, awkward sight. It was then that a girl named Deborah Reed, standing at her front door, saw him for the first time. She chuckled softly, unaware that this hungry, peculiar boy would one day achieve global fame and eventually become her husband. Ben inquired around and secured a small job at a local printing shop run by Samuel Kamer. He worked diligently, but also observed, listened, and learned faster than anyone else. Ben possessed a sharp mind, quick hands, and an unyielding desire to be more than just a worker. He was disciplined. He awoke early, read at night, saved money, and privately practiced writing, logic, and public speaking. He didn't just want to earn money, he wanted to build his mind. Ben created his own reading schedule, devouring books on science, philosophy, politics, human behavior, business ethics, and religion. He never wasted his evenings. While others gambled or drank in taverns, Benjamin returned home to read, write, and reflect. He firmly believed that an investment in knowledge yields the best interest. At age 21, Ben initiated something revolutionary. He formed a group called the Junto, a club of young, working-class men who loved to read, think, and discuss grand ideas. They convened every Friday evening to deliberate on books, societal problems, inventions, community improvement, business, and self-improvement. He cultivated a learning community long before schools were widely accessible. The Junto inspired libraries, schools, hospitals, and social change in Philadelphia. Ben was not just developing himself, he was elevating others. After gaining experience and saving money, Benjamin left Kamer's shop and established his own printing press with a loan from a friend. This was a risky venture. He was still young and unknown, but he possessed vision and skill. Soon, his printing business flourished. He printed pamphlets, legal papers, books, government contracts, and his own writings. Ben sought not just profit, but to print useful, meaningful ideas. In 1729, Benjamin Franklin acquired a struggling newspaper, the Pennsylvania Gazette. Under his leadership, it became one of the most popular newspapers in the American colonies. He utilized the newspaper not just for news, but to disseminate scientific knowledge, educate the public, combat corruption, inspire critical thinking, and even entertain with clever humor and satire. Ben had transformed ink and paper into power. In 1732, Benjamin created a small annual publication called Poor Richard's Almanac. Writing under the pseudonym Richard Saunders, it featured weather forecasts, jokes, puzzles, advice, famous quotes, morals, life lessons, money, saving tips, and wisdom about life, success, and character. Some of his legendary sayings include, "Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well done is better than well said. Lost time is never found again. A penny saved is a penny earned." The almanac became a phenomenal success, printed for 25 years and selling thousands of copies annually. It made Ben famous, wealthy, and respected. More importantly, it made the average person smarter. Benjamin eventually married Deborah Reed, the same girl who had once chuckled at him walking with bread rolls years earlier. Their marriage was not perfect, but it was genuine. They raised 2 sons and a daughter together. He now had a home, a business, and a growing legacy. But Benjamin Franklin was far from finished. He had already become a successful writer, printer, businessman, and thinker. Next, he would become a great inventor, a visionary scientist, a public leader, and eventually a founding father of an entire nation. Part 2. The inventor, the scientist, the genius. Benjamin Franklin was now a well-known writer, printer, and thinker in Philadelphia. But he was never content. He didn't just want to make money. He wanted to understand how the world worked. Most people in their 30s or 40s settled down. Not Franklin. This was the genesis of his scientific mind, and it would propel him far beyond printing. He posed simple yet profound questions. What is electricity? Why does lightning strike? Can we store power? How does the human body function? Can we simplify life with inventions? And then he began experimenting. In the 1740s, Franklin became captivated by electricity. At that time, it was a mysterious force. People observed sparks or received shocks, but no one truly comprehended it. There were no wires in homes, no light bulbs, no power stations. Electricity was something people feared or mocked, a trick, not a tool. But Franklin believed it was something real, natural, and potentially useful. He started conducting experiments with glass rods, metal keys, Leyden jars, early batteries, silk cloth, wires, bells, and static charges generated by rubbing materials. He sought to discover what electricity truly was, not by speculation, but by direct action. He was not a trained scientist, had no laboratory, and no formal education. But he possessed curiosity, focus, and courage. Franklin didn't just conduct experiments, he helped shape the language of science. He coined new words we still use today, such as battery, conductor, charge, positive, and negative for electrical currents. He gave electrician its modern meaning. He was not just discovering, he was defining the invisible world of energy. In 1752, Franklin conceived a bold, risky idea. He believed that lightning was the same as electricity, but no one had proven it. People considered it dangerous magic from the sky. Churches feared it. Scientists were uncertain. So Franklin designed a now famous experiment. He flew a kite during a thunderstorm. This was no ordinary kite. He attached a metal key to the string. The string ran through a silk ribbon for insulation. He held the string inside a safe, dry area, not exposed to the storm, as many mistakenly believe. As lightning passed through the clouds above, the key sparked, unequivocally proving that lightning was pure electricity. This moment forever altered science. He could have been killed, but his careful setup saved him. And now the world knew electricity is real, it is natural, and it can be understood. This made Franklin an international scientific celebrity even before America's birth. After demonstrating that lightning was electricity, Franklin invented something that would save countless lives: the lightning rod. Before this, buildings, especially tall structures like churches and barns, were frequently struck by lightning and caught fire. Franklin's invention provided lightning a safe path to the ground. It was a simple metal rod placed at the top of a building, connected by a wire to the earth. This invention reduced death and destruction, made buildings safer, and illustrated that science could protect human life. Many religious leaders initially opposed it, believing lightning was divine punishment. But soon, people realized Franklin's rod was saving lives, not challenging faith. Franklin never ceased inventing. He didn't create things to accumulate wealth. In fact, he never patented a single invention. He believed inventions should be freely shared to benefit humanity. Here are some of his most renowned inventions. 1. Bifocal glasses. Franklin struggled with both near and far vision, so he invented bifocals, glasses with 2 lenses in one, allowing him to read and see distance without switching. Millions still use them today. 2. The Franklin stove. Homes relied on fireplaces for heat, but they were inefficient and produced smoke. Franklin invented a metal stove that consumed less wood, generated more heat, and safely warmed homes. It was particularly beneficial for poor families. 3. Swim fins. As a child, Franklin loved swimming. He invented early hand paddles to help people move faster in water, an early precursor to modern swim fins. 4. The long arm. He devised a simple tool to retrieve books from high shelves, a wooden pole with a claw. It was useful, creative, and is still used in new forms today. 5. Glass harmonica. Franklin had a passion for music. He created a unique instrument using glass bowls that produced beautiful sounds when played with wet fingers. Even Mozart and Beethoven composed music for it. Franklin's experiments were not confined to his locality. He began corresponding with scientists in France, England, and Germany, sharing his findings. He was elected into the Royal Society of London and many other academies, despite his lack of a college degree. He received medals, awards, and letters of admiration from kings, philosophers, and scientists. People now hailed him as the Newton of the New World. Yet, Franklin remained humble. He famously remarked, "I never knew a man who was good at making excuses, who was good at anything else." He continued to write and publish essays on human nature, science, morality, public improvement, and philosophy. His ideas encouraged readers to think independently, ask questions, and become better citizens. He believed reading fosters wisdom, writing confers power, curiosity promotes growth, and discipline builds character. At this stage in his life, Franklin had become a successful businessman, a respected scientist, a public servant, a beloved family man, and a friend to thinkers and leaders worldwide. And yet, his greatest role still awaited him. He would not just invent machines or words. He would help invent a new nation. By the late 1750s and early 1760s, Benjamin Franklin was no longer merely a man of science. He had become one of the most respected minds in the entire British Empire. He had built a flourishing business, uncovered the truth about electricity, created inventions that aided millions, written books and essays that shaped thought, and connected with global leaders, kings, scientists, and thinkers. But he was about to embark on a new chapter, one where his intellect and courage would be tested like never before. Because across the Atlantic Ocean, in the British colonies of America, a fire was igniting, and Franklin would become one of the few men brave enough to confront it. Let us understand the world Franklin inhabited. 13 British colonies existed in America, all governed by King George III of Great Britain. These colonies paid taxes to Britain but had no representation in the British Parliament. People began to question, why should we pay taxes if we have no voice? Franklin understood this sentiment. He had traveled between Philadelphia and London many times, speaking before kings, ministers, and wealthy leaders. He witnessed how the affluent and powerful in Britain viewed Americans with disdain, labeling them rebels or uncivilized. Franklin, proud of his heritage, began to feel torn. Was he a loyal subject of the king or a champion for American liberty? In 1765, the British government enacted the Stamp Act. This law compelled American colonists to pay taxes on newspapers, legal documents, magazines, and even playing cards. The people were enraged. This was not just about money, it was about freedom. They believed the British were treating them as slaves, not citizens. Franklin, who was in London at the time, was called upon to defend the American people, and he did. In 1766, Franklin appeared before the British House of Commons, a powerful assembly of lawmakers. He stood alone in a vast hall surrounded by noblemen, officers, and critics. Calmly, he articulated why Americans were incensed. He informed them Americans are loyal, but they demand fair treatment. They believe in freedom, not coerced control. They are willing to pay taxes, but only if they have representation. His speech was so potent, so lucid, so honest that the Stamp Act was repealed soon after. Franklin had triumphed with words, not war. However, the British still failed to respect the American colonies, and tensions continued to escalate. Franklin cherished peace. He exhausted every effort to prevent war, sending letters, holding meetings, conversing with ministers, and warning both sides. But the British refused to listen, and Americans had reached their limit. In 1775, war erupted between Britain and the colonies. Guns fired, lives were lost. The American Revolution had begun, and Franklin knew it was time to cease being a messenger. It was time to become a revolutionary. In 1776, the colonies resolved to break free from British rule. They selected a group of men to draft a bold new document, the Declaration of Independence. Benjamin Franklin was among them, alongside Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and others. If the revolution failed, every signatory would be hanged as a traitor. But Franklin stood firm. He believed in freedom, human rights, and equality. He famously declared, "We must all hang together, or we shall surely hang separately." On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration was adopted. America was born, at least on paper, but the war still raged. Now came one of Franklin's greatest challenges. America was battling the world's most powerful army, Britain. They desperately needed assistance, money, and France's support. So Franklin, now 70 years old, crossed the perilous Atlantic Ocean to travel to France alone on a secret mission. His objective: to persuade the French king to support America, secure weapons, ships, and money, and forge an alliance that could alter the course of the war. But this was no easy task. In France, Franklin became a sensation. The French people adored him. His gray hair and simple clothes, his wisdom and wit, his ideas of freedom and equality. He was seen as a man of the people, not a royal puppet. He employed charm, diplomacy, and intelligence to gradually gain the trust of the French court. It took years of persistent effort, but finally, in 1778, France signed a treaty with America. This was a pivotal moment in the war. Franklin's diplomacy helped secure French soldiers, warships, and resources that America direly needed. The war persisted for years, but in 1783, the British finally conceded defeat. A peace treaty, the Treaty of Paris, was signed, and Benjamin Franklin was one of the primary negotiators who helped craft it. After years of writing, fighting, speaking, and sacrificing, Benjamin Franklin had helped achieve the impossible. America was free. He was not just an American hero, he was now a global symbol of freedom, intelligence, and courage. In France, statues were erected in his honor. In England, people who once despised him now respected him. In America, he was loved more than ever. He had become a voice for peace, a champion for liberty, a builder of nations. And yet, his journey was not complete. He still had more to give. Part 3. The Final Battles of a Legend. In 1785, after nearly a decade in France, Benjamin Franklin, now 79 years old, returned to Philadelphia. He had departed as a rebel. He returned as a hero. People lined the streets to welcome him with cheers, parades, and celebrations. For many Americans, Franklin was the most revered man alive. But the country he returned to was still nascent, fragile, and fraught with problems. There was no robust government. The 13 colonies were now 13 distinct states with differing currencies, laws, and interests. There was no national bank, no genuine unity, and chaos was beginning to spread. Benjamin Franklin understood that winning freedom was merely the initial step. Now came the more arduous task, building a nation capable of survival. In 1787, leaders from across the states convened in Philadelphia to rectify the flawed system. This gathering would become one of the most crucial events in world history, the Constitutional Convention. Its purpose was to create a document that would unite the states, safeguard freedom, establish laws, and guide future generations. And Benjamin Franklin, now 81 years old, weary, and suffering from severe pain and illness, was present every day. He could not stand for long, nor walk without assistance. He was often in agony, but he appeared. He sat quietly, listened attentively, and when he spoke, the room heeded his words. He did not quarrel or argue. He employed wisdom and composure to foster unity among men who frequently disagreed. When it was time to sign the Constitution, Franklin, the oldest delegate, uttered something profound. "I consent to this Constitution because I expect no better, and I am not sure that it is not the best. He reminded everyone that no system is perfect, but unity outweighs pride. His signature was affixed. The Constitution was adopted, and America now possessed a government, a structure, and a future. Most people are unaware that in his later years, Benjamin Franklin became a formidable voice against slavery. At a time when it was common, even among other founding fathers, to own slaves, Franklin spoke openly and courageously about its evil. He had once accepted slavery like many others, but in his old age, he saw the truth. He became the president of the Pennsylvania Society for promoting the abolition of slavery, and he wrote powerful essays advocating for the end of slavery, freedom for all people, and education and opportunity for former slaves. He believed justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. Even as his health deteriorated, he fought for human dignity and equality. This was not politics, this was from his heart. During these final years, Franklin also dedicated himself to something deeply personal, his autobiography. He did not write it to boast. He wrote it to instruct others on how to live better lives. In it, he recounted his humble beginnings, his mistakes and failures, his routines, goals, and lessons, his 13 personal virtues for self-improvement, and his philosophy on life, learning, money, relationships, and character. It became one of the most widely read and cherished autobiographies in history. Even today, leaders, thinkers, and learners worldwide read it to cultivate discipline, build good habits, train their minds, and grow from within. His message was simple: you don't need to be born rich to achieve greatness. You need curiosity, discipline, and the desire to serve others. By 1789, Benjamin Franklin was in constant pain, suffering from gout and kidney stones. He could not walk and was often confined to bed, but he never complained. He continued to write letters, share wisdom, and support leaders like George Washington, who had just become the first president of the United States. Franklin was now almost 84 years old. He had lived a life longer than most could in his era. More importantly, he had lived a life of profound meaning. In 1790, just weeks before his death, Franklin penned one final letter to the U.S. government calling for the complete abolition of slavery in America. It was a final act of courage, honesty, and humanity. Even on his deathbed, Franklin was still fighting for justice. On April 17, 1790, Benjamin Franklin died peacefully in his sleep at 84 years old. The news of his death echoed across the world. In France, thousands marched in silence to honor him. In America, church bells tolled, streets fell silent, and tears were shed. In England, even his former adversaries penned words of respect and honor. More than 20,000 people attended his funeral in Philadelphia, the largest in American history at that time. He was buried next to his wife Deborah, who had passed 16 years earlier. His tombstone, which he had written himself, simply read, Benjamin Franklin, printer. Not politician, not scientist, not ambassador, not philosopher, just printer. This epitaph reflected his humility. Even in death, he wished to be remembered as a simple man who used words and ideas to build something greater than himself. Franklin died with no titles, no vast property, no throne. but he left behind a free country, a living constitution, millions of lives improved through invention and wisdom. Ideas that continue to guide the world, and a message that anyone from any background can rise and lead. He left behind something grander than any monument, a mindset. Part 4. The legacy that never died. When Benjamin Franklin died in 1790, the streets of Philadelphia, once filled with his voice, his printing presses, his inventions, his footsteps, fell into silence. But this silence was not empty. It was a silence of respect, of loss, and of deep reflection. For the man was gone, but his impact had only just begun. Let us pause and consider what this single man accomplished in one lifetime. He dropped out of school at age 10, taught himself by reading old books, worked as a printer, editor, and pundit. He created Poor Richard's Almanac, which became one of the most widely read books in history. He discovered that lightning is electricity. He invented the lightning rod, bifocal glasses, and the Franklin stove. He established America's first public library. He founded the first fire department, the first hospital, and the first public university in Pennsylvania. He formed the first mutual insurance company, negotiated with kings, spoke in parliaments, and helped secure America's independence. He wrote and signed the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Paris, and the U.S. Constitution. He opposed slavery, and he inspired people across the world to believe in freedom, knowledge, and progress. And he achieved all of this without modern technology, formal education, privilege, shortcuts, or excuses. How? Because Benjamin Franklin never sought permission. He never lamented what he lacked. He utilized what he possessed and became more than anyone could have imagined. Franklin's autobiography, quietly composed during his final years, became a global treasure. Why? Because it wasn't just about his achievements. It was about his thought process, his way of life, and how anyone could attain greatness. He didn't declare, "Observe how amazing I am." He stated, "Here's what I learned. Now you try." He enumerated 13 personal virtues that guided his daily life. 1. Temperance, control over food and drink. 2. Silence, speak only what is helpful. 3. Order, organize your time and space. 4. Resolution, decide, then act. 5. Frugality, spend only on what helps. 6. Industry, always stay productive. 7. Sincerity, be honest and kind. 8. Justice, do what is right. 9. Moderation, avoid extremes. 10. Cleanliness, keep yourself and surroundings neat. 11. Tranquility, stay calm during storms. 12. Chastity, respect relationships. 13. Humility, imitate Jesus and Socrates. Franklin tracked these daily in a notebook, aiming to improve one virtue each week. This was not about achieving perfection, but about growth, character, and self-discipline. People worldwide, even now, employ this simple system to transform their lives. You may not realize it, but some of the quotes and sayings we use today originated from Franklin's pen, such as, "Time is money. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. A penny saved is a penny earned. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Well done is better than well said. He that can have patience can have what he will. Never leave that till tomorrow which you can do today." These are not just quotes. They are practical life tools bestowed upon us by a man who embodied them. His influence on the modern world, let's break it down further. 1. Education. He helped create the first public library and university. Today, millions have access to knowledge because of his belief in free education. 2. Science. His work with electricity led to the discoveries that gave us light bulbs, circuits, batteries, power plants, and more. Freedom. He helped write the documents that created the United States of America, the most powerful democracy in the world. 4. Values. He proved that you don't need money to be rich in ideas. You don't need a degree to become a genius. You don't need status to make history. Even today, you'll find his name on schools, universities, cities like Franklin, Tennessee, bridges, libraries, monuments, and most famously on the US a 100 bill. Why the 100 bill? Because he represented value, not just monetary value, but mental value, moral value, and human value. He earned his place there not through power, but through principle. Franklin once wrote, "If you would not be forgotten as soon as you are dead and rotten, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing." These are not just tips. These are real principles from a real life lived with discipline, courage, and purpose. Each lesson is explained in simple English so even beginners can understand and feel the power. 1. You don't need to be born rich. You just need to stay curious. Franklin was born into a poor family with 17 children and had to leave school at age 10. But he became a genius because he never stopped asking questions. He wanted to understand how things worked. He wanted to learn not for grades, but for meaning. Lesson curiosity is more powerful than money. Never stop learning. 2. Read more than you talk. Franklin became wise because he read constantly. He borrowed books, read at night, and absorbed ideas from others. Even as a teenager, he didn't waste time gossiping. He read about the world. Lesson: if you want a better life, fill your mind with better thoughts. 3. Don't wait to be perfect. Just start. He started writing when no one believed in him. He published articles under a fake name. He ran away from home with nothing and figured life out on the journey. Lesson: you don't need all the answers to begin. You just need to begin. 4. Create value before you chase money. He never pursued wealth first. He pursued usefulness, printing wise ideas, inventing helpful tools, serving the people. Money followed him because he created things people needed. Lesson: become valuable and value will chase you. 5. Speak less, do more. He believed in action, not just grand talk. He said, "Well done is better than well said." He never wasted words. He used his energy to build, write, create, and lead. Lesson: don't try to impress people. Impact them by what you do. 6. Track your habits. Improve yourself daily. Franklin created a personal system of 13 virtues and tracked them every day. This helped him stay disciplined, focused, honest, and strong. Lesson: success is not one big act. It's small, good habits repeated daily. 7. Stand for what's right, even if you stand alone. He stood for freedom, truth, and human dignity, even when it was unpopular. He fought against slavery. He risked his life by signing the Declaration of Independence. He spoke truth to kings and remained loyal to the people. Lesson: don't be afraid to speak up, even when it's hard. 8. Age is never an excuse. He was 70 years old when he crossed the ocean to win France's support. He was 80, one when he helped write the U.S. Constitution. He worked until his last breath. Lesson: if your soul is strong, your age doesn't matter. 9. Give more than you take. Franklin never patented any invention, not even the lightning rod. He believed inventions were meant to serve humanity, not enrich him. He shared his knowledge freely. He gave his life fully. Lesson: the more you give, the greater your legacy becomes. 10. Leave behind more than just money. Leave wisdom. Franklin didn't leave behind a mansion. He left behind a nation, a mindset, and a model for living wisely. His legacy lives through ideas, virtues, and the example of self-made greatness. Lesson: live in such a way that your story becomes someone else's inspiration. You have heard the story of Benjamin Franklin. Now, the question is not how great was he. The real question is, what will you do now? You are not too poor. You are not too late. You are not too weak. You are not too uneducated. You are not too broken. You are powerful, but you must believe it and build it like Franklin did. Start with what you have. Build with what you know. Learn from your mistakes. Serve others. Wake up early. Be useful. Create more. Complain less. Stay curious. And keep going. Because if a candlemaker's son with 2 years of schooling can change the world, why not you? Thank you for watching this story. Now go live a life worth remembering. Your legacy begins today.